Chapter 3. Annabeth. Annabeth wished that she'd had an appetite, because the Romans knew how to eat. Sets of couches and low tables were crafted into the forum until it resembled a furniture showroom. Romans lounged in groups of 10 or 20, talking and laughing while wind spirits, aurorae, swirled overhead, bringing an endless assortment of pizzas, sandwiches, chips, cold drinks, and fresh-baked cookies. Drifting through the crowd were purple ghosts, lars, in togas, and legionnaire armor. Around the edges of the feast, fauns, Annabeth thought, trotted from table to table, panhandling for food and spare change. In the nearby fields, the war elephant frolicked with Miss O'Leary, and children played tag around the statues of Terminius that lined the city limits. The whole scene was so familiar, yet so completely alien that it gave Annabeth vertigo. All she wanted to do was be with Percy, preferably alone. She knew she would have to wait. If their quest was going to succeed, they needed these Romans, which meant getting to know them and building some goodwill. Reyna and a few of her officers, including the blonde kid Octavian, freshly back from burning a teddy bear for the gods, sat with Annabeth and her crew. Percy joined them with his two new friends, Frank and Hazel. As a tornado of food platters settled onto the table, Percy leaned over and whispered, "I want to show you around New Rome. Just you and me. This place is incredible." Annabeth should have felt thrilled. Just you and me was exactly what she wanted. Instead, resentment swelled in her throat. How could Percy talk so enthusiastically about this place? What about Camp Half-Blood? Their camp. Their home. She tried not to stare at the new marks on Percy's forearm. An SPQR tattoo like Jason's. At Camp Half-Blood, demigods got bead necklaces to commemorate years of training. Here, the Romans burned a tattoo into your flesh, as if to say, you belong to us, permanently. She swallowed back some biting comments. "Okay, sure." "I've been thinking," he said nervously. "I had this idea." He stopped as Reyna called a toast to friendship. After introductions all around, the Romans and Annabeth's crew began exchanging stories. Jason explained how he arrived at Camp Half-Blood without his memory, and how he'd gone on a quest with Piper and Leo to rescue the goddess Hera, or Juno, take your pick. She was equally annoying in Greek or Roman, from imprisonment from the Wolf House in Northern California. "Impossible!" Octavian broke in. "That's our most sacred place! If the giants had imprisoned a goddess there..." "They would have destroyed her," Piper said, "and blamed it on the Greeks, and started a war between the camps. Now be quiet and let Jason finish." Octavian opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Annabeth really loved Piper's charm speak. She noticed Reyna looking back and forth between Jason and Piper, her brow creased, as if just beginning to realize the two of them were a couple. "So," Jason continued, "that's how we found out about the Earth Goddess Gaia. She's still half asleep, but she's the one freeing the monsters from Tartarus and raising the giants. Polyphrion, the big leader dude that we fought at the Wolf House, he said he was retreating to the ancient lands, Greece itself. He plans on waking Gaia and destroying the gods by, what did he call it? Pulling up their roots?" Percy nodded thoughtfully. "And Gaia's been busy over here, too. We had our own encounter with the Queen Dirtface." Percy recounted his side of the story. He talked about waking up in the Wolf House with no memories except for one name, Annabeth. When she heard that, Annabeth had to try hard not to cry. Percy told them how he traveled to Alaska with Frank and Hazel, how they'd defeated the giant Alclonius, freed the death god Thanatos, and returned with the lost golden eagle standard. When Percy had finished, Jason whistled appreciatively. "No wonder they made you praetor." Octavian snorted. "It means we now have 3 praetors! The rules clearly state we can only have 2! "On the bright side," Percy said, "both Jason and I outrank you, Octavian, so we can both tell you to shut up."